About a year ago, I got a really cool email from someone. I had no idea who it was. Ends up, it was a young woman who lives in Seattle, Washington, asking me permission to cover one of my songs that I wrote 20 years ago. And someone had given her that CD that we made in about 1999, and when she was a young girl, and she kept it and remembered it. And there was a song on it that moved her, and she wanted to ask if she could record that, but she wanted to change the music a bit, and she was going to send me the recording if I would agree. Had agreed, and which I did. She sent it along, and I listened to it, and about halfway through it, I just started getting chills and teared up and was incredibly moved by it. The thought that something that I created mattered to someone else, mattered enough for them to take it on, but also it mattered enough to spur a new idea and a new thought. And when I heard that, it was different than the original, but the spirit was there of the song, of yearning and longing. And that was just a really, really unusual encouragement for my art. Which brings me to the point of my unscripted talk today, that the most important aspect of art is not is it good, the most important aspect is will I create it? Because it can't get noticed if it doesn't exist. Sounds wildly obvious, but if the artist is not willing to create, it will never be seen. And so it's irrelevant whether you think it looks or sounds or is good, that it's up to the artist first to create. Because out of the act of creation should flow some level of joy and fulfillment. Those two things don't come through selling that art. Joy and fulfillment comes from creating the art. And that's the beauty of the art and the artist, is the act of creation should bring about a tremendous sense of satisfaction in and of itself. But it's not enough to just create. There's another aspect of it that I see played out every night in my chef's table and portico experience. Every night, every single night, someone grabs a camera. Oh, and they take a picture of their food. We didn't do that before we had smartphones. Why do we do it now? And I think the answer is simple, and it takes us back into grade school. I don't know if they still do this, but we had a practice when I was a young kid, show and tell. I don't know if they still do that anymore. But you're supposed to bring something from home that's important and meaningful to you, like your favorite model car, or maybe a G.I. Joe, or some people even brought their dogs to class. But it's something that they are proud of, that as a child, and we wanted to share that with the rest of the class. That's why people take pictures of their food, is because they're having a moment of joy right in front of them, and they want to share that. That is fundamental human nature. The joy that I have, I want to give it away. I want to share it. And I want people to be curious about it. And that's why we do it. I think that's why every night people pull out their camera. Oh, darn, I didn't get a picture of the bread. Darn. Because they're having an experience that's unusual, and they want to share it with people. And so this is the second part of our art. The thing that brings us joy and fulfillment in creating also has the possibility of bringing us joy and fulfillment in sharing it and letting others experience it. But that is where it becomes more vulnerable and dangerous. Because to share our art is to take a risk that, one, it might be ignored. Two, it might be made fun of, might be thought of as no good. So why would I do that? I don't want to open myself up to that kind of ridicule. Then in doing that, I'm also shutting down a vital part of being human, and that's sharing my love and joy with another human being. And that's the essence of it. Art is meant to be created, and it must be shared, or it's not going to be art the way it was intended. Art wants to bless. Art wants to provoke. Art wants to raise questions. It wants to prove glimpses of something that we're not sure can exist. So to the artist listening, I say continue to create. And if you're not yet, start creating whatever it is that you find joy in. I saw recently a guy who creates these beautiful images with screen, like screen door screen, and he layers them in different the different way the light comes through the different stacks, and you stand back and oh my gosh, he does that out of screen. Brilliant, right? Brilliant. Takes what he has and puts his mark on it and draws out an incredible image. That's his gift to humanity. But if he just keeps that rolled up, he'll find great joy in it, which is what I discovered during COVID. Everybody's freaked out about the shutdown, and I was quite happy just going into my basement studio every night and generating music. I had bought an Apple computer. It was bundled with GarageBand. I had not fiddled with that stuff for 20 years. And I opened it up and realized, not much has changed. A lot has improved, but not much of the technology and the intuition of the interface. So I began to experiment and play around and record sounds and mix sounds and samples. And I started creating all these fun little electronic songs. And before I know it, I had 25 songs all tucked away. Never once did I think I would do something with that, because it was just fun. It was fun for me to create, but also it was a fun way to pass the time while the world was burning. And so I had a good friend, he's a DJ, and he asked me about it. What are you doing with all that music? I said, nothing. He said, send me something. And so I sent him a couple of songs, and the next time I saw him, he scolded me. He said, Chef, what are you doing? You need to make these public. You need to get these out into the world. These are good. And that was the impetus that I needed to clean everything up, open up a Spotify account under 55 Degrees, and I started posting my music. And I've got 3 full albums on there now, several singles, about to release a 4th full album when I get it all mixed. But it won't do anybody any good if it's just sitting on the hard drive. And had I not 25 years ago released Come to the Fountain, my dear friend in halfway across the country wouldn't be telling me about it and telling me that it moved her. 25 years later. Time is irrelevant in the world of art because the sense of urgency doesn't matter. The pursuit of making it happen. It's why great works of art can take years. It's why the beautiful monuments and statues and cathedrals take years and years. Art isn't meant to be immediate, and it's meant to be lasting. And the little songs that I created, at first I was cautious, hesitant. Why would are they? I don't even know if they're any good. But Rick Rubin says that doesn't matter. What matters is, do they bring you joy? And think of your creations as a diary entry. They tell the story of what's happening in you today. And your music and your art should sound different in 5 years because you're a different person and you're expressing things differently. And it's the same thing with writing. When I set out to write my first memoir cookbook, my editor encouraged me, Kevin, do not over-edit, because I had 10 years of writing that I had done through ups and downs of life and business. And she said, you're going to be tempted to edit out some of those uncomfortable parts. And she said, please do your best to not edit out the mistakes in spelling or grammar, but don't edit out the emotion, because that's what will make it meaningful to your reader. And it's a diary entry, right? And so sure enough, it was difficult to go back through and read from 2007 and 2008 and all the difficult struggles that came with opening a business, and then 2010 when cancer comes along and all of that struggle and uncertainty, and but that's what it was at that point. And so I decided, okay, we'll just let this will be my journal entry. And so started releasing my music again after 20 years. And I still am writing. But the most important part is I'm writing and I'm creating, and I am putting it out there when the time is right. But I try to write something every day on Instagram. The way my process works there is I don't sit down to that typewriter to write something. I sit down to record something that's already been written out in my mind. I just capture it on the keys. And my process there is, when I get this idea in mind, I write it down as quickly as possible, get it into a form that seems understandable, and post it right away. I don't wait. Because that's not what I feel like this is. These are immediate thoughts. For those of you who have followed my Instagram typewriting for 5 years, you know that. You've seen that in my writing. There's an immediacy, and sometimes it feels like I'm talking to you, and most likely I am, but really I'm talking to me. And that's the first role of my art in my writing is, does it speak to me? Because if it doesn't speak to me, why would I expect it to speak to you? And I always approach it that way. I don't deliberate, not over my typewriter. Now, music and other things, I try to be a little more thoughtful, a little more cautious, a little more planned. But even I sent out a blog post yesterday to my subscribers. I wrote that in about an hour and a half. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to convey something immediate and not overthink it and not overwork it. And when I first started writing a blog back in 2005, my parameter, my boundary was to sit down for 30 minutes and post something. I give myself longer than that now, but my idea was if I don't force myself to publish, I never will. So that was my beginning guideline for myself. Sit down, 30 minutes, whatever's written, post it. And that's how it started. And I love parameters. I love boundaries. I love the lines. Give me the lines and I'll paint within the lines, because the lines are they're helpful restrictions. And instead of, well, what do I write about today? Well, let's write about this, and we'll write it in here, and we'll take 1 hour to write it and go. So some of my thoughts about creation and art and writing, and but I hope what you will hear, I hope the creative side of you will hear this. And you may not think of yourself as an artist, but I hope you think of yourself as a creator, not just a consumer. Art is meant to be created and consumed. The artist needs to have both of those, and the consumer needs to have both of those. Because if we're just consuming without creating, we grow fat, we grow dense and demanding. Because the act of creation keeps us human. That's really the essence of that act of creation. It grounds me to my humanity and my tenderness and my openness, because I know how difficult it is and how vulnerable I have to be when I create something that matters and that feels beautiful to me, and I got to go here with the hopes that it will be like my friend in Seattle who said, thank you for writing this, and now may I take it and move it forward. So go out, start creating, keep creating. Create, create, create. But don't leave it on the hard drive. Don't leave it in the stack. Share it with people, because you'll find your humanity will deepen, and you'll become more grounded, rooted, thoughtful, caring when you take the risk of sharing your art. Thanks for listening.